All right, so if I gave you $300,000 to buy a short-term rental, would you spend more time picking out the property or the paint color?
Well, if you gave me 300,000, I'd be super excited to buy a short-term rental. But today we're talking about something investors don't prioritize. Design isn't decoration, it's strategy.
So welcome back to Hoosier Homes and Hustles. I'm Jessica, aka Miss Indianapolis Real Estate, here with Stacy Preston. And today we're talking STR design, branding, and how to actually stand out in a saturated market.
And today we're joined by Olivia and Ashlyn, the creative minds behind Abideaway, a design and branding studio specializing in short-term rentals.
Ladies, welcome.
Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. This is awesome.
Awesome. All right, so let's start at the beginning. How did your business start?
For me, it started by getting a message from Olivia, who had this idea born out of all of her ideas. Well, for context, we are sisters. And at the time when this came into my mind, I was at Purdue studying interior design. And I started having this brainchild of what if design actually could pair with Ashlyn's creative mind? She was starting to paint murals and get into graphic design. And I was like, what if we applied all of this to the short-term rental space and created a creative studio essentially for short-term rentals? And so it started as like a dream on my dorm room bed and actually happened.
That's awesome.
You guys are with Abideaway. Where does that name come from?
I feel like we kind of sat on this idea and we were like, what are we going to call it? And for me, I just love brands that create a name and something that sounds big, like a legacy. And I was trying to think of like what made sense. So Abideaway for us, it's kind of like a playoff of like hideaway or getaway. But I also just love the term abide. I mean, we're believers, so it plays into kind of our faith of abiding in the Lord. But even in the short-term rental space, seeing how abiding just seems like a place where you set back, kick your feet up and relax and abide. And so your getaway where you do that is essentially the idea.
And I think when we realize, we've always wanted to work together, like we might actually be better together than on these separate lanes, combine all these skills and use them to serve other people in a cool way. So that was kind of, I guess, our moment of realizing that.
So let's talk about what your philosophy is with design.
What I love is diving into that architecture of the home, the location of where it's set, and thinking about the story that the home naturally wants to tell. I mean, maybe that sounds a little woo-woo, but like I believe like each home has its own unique features and each location is drawing people in for different reasons. So essentially my goal is making the space just expand upon someone's experience when they're traveling.
My next question was, how do you find the story of the properties?
I do like to talk to the hosts, and typically like I have about 4 or 5 points we'll run through of, the location being one of them, like just looking at the home's architecture, but even like thinking about like maybe on a really micro scale, the location, like, oh, what's like the street name? Or like, did this home used to be like a schoolhouse? Or is there an apple orchard? Like, what can we use in the design? So there can be a million different things that you play off of, but I'm just trying to look for like that spark of inspiration.
For anyone that has never worked with a designer, but they really want to, think about the strategy because now they purchase an STR or before they get to purchase that STR, what does it look like for them to work with you?
The sooner that we're aware to make room for your project, the better. But then what's fun is like we always start with a kickoff call. For local projects that can be in person, otherwise it's virtual. And that's just a time when we really get to align on the vision, think through the inspiration of the space, talking through the story of the space, like we've said. And then from there, it's actually very hands off for the host, which is a great way for them to like, they're busy. Like there's so much that's happening when you close on your rental. And so we let them kind of like be in their genius zone while we're in our genius zone, getting down to the design. And so essentially there's kind of this 2 to 4 week period typically of design where I will be coming back with layouts and design boards for every room in the property, including the exterior. And then the design can be ordered and implemented. We do have like a round of revisions, but typically that moves pretty quickly because people are ready to get things going. So the way that we do that is through a Matterport, so like a 3D walkthrough of the home. That essentially gives me enough information that I need to build out my own 3D model. And that's where I'm playing around with layouts and furniture, just making sure that you're not ordering stuff that's not going to fit or that needs changed later. Obviously, there are surprises that happen here and there, but for the most part, we are just like executing according to how it's actually going to fit in the space, which is a step that sometimes gets forgotten, and it should not be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then we provide our clients with an install guide that they can either execute on their own, or we can partner with an install team that would do the install for them, but telling them all the details, like how are you hanging these drapes? How high are you hanging art? Just all the little nitty-gritty things that you need to know.
I think that's one of the biggest things for out-of-state STR buyers is that's their biggest frustration and pain point is the installation. Like, how am I going to have everything installed? Do I have to do it? Do I have to hire someone? Who do I know to trust to do it? So yeah, that's pretty important.
I was going to say, I would be taking the installation. Like, please do that for me. I've done it myself a few times and I'm just like, never again.
I prefer it personally, but I understand that not everybody has the means to be able to go down and do that wherever they're purchasing.
It's awesome that you at least have those resources to point people to, because I think sometimes, especially if you're investing in an area that you don't live in, like it's nice to have that. I think the next thing we'd like to talk about is the timing. When are we bringing in the designer? Is this during the purchase? Is this after closing? Is this during the renovation? So what do you guys recommend with that?
As soon as possible is ideal. Even if you're in the house hunt phase, sometimes that's a good time just to make sure your teams are ready to go and you know who you're going to work with, you feel good about them. But we like to be able to start like as soon as closing happens. A lot of the time people are like, okay, like let's start tomorrow. And so you want to have your designer already secured at that point, if possible. That's not always the case, but it is helpful. And even when you're doing like renovations or some of those decisions, it's helpful to have a designer on board already to help with flooring and finishes, whatever, you know, you're making those decisions so that they're aligned with the vision of the home as a whole. And those things can be selected before, but you want to already have kind of in mind where you're headed with the home.
Yeah. I'm actually working with a STR investor right now, and he had his designer kind of in the process. He was sending her videos and pictures along the way. So the one thing that I cautioned him on, and any buyer, if you're getting financing for your STR, they get so excited when they get under contract and they're ready to start buying all the things. But just always remember, if you're getting a loan, don't put the furniture on a credit card or on another loan, because that can cause your closing to fall apart. So we don't want you to buy furniture for a house you don't have. So anyways, but I think the earlier the better too, especially since there's lead time on getting on your calendar, ordering things. You could at least have everything ready to order for when closing happens, and then hit the ground running to not lose a ton of time on getting the property ready.
And knowing what that budget is in advance too.
Yeah.
To make sure it makes sense.
That's true. Like running those numbers before you even make an offer, knowing what it's going to cost to potentially furnish it, that really matters. So
on that, are you guys able to give at least like maybe a ballpark estimate to some folks so they can at least gauge when they're running numbers? That way they're not taking up too much of your time, but they can kind of help them decide if it makes sense or not to move forward.
Yes, they're kind of the rule of thumb. You're going to hear this with most designers. Is you take the number of bedrooms in the home and multiply that by $10,000. So for a 4-bedroom home, you're looking at $40K. And essentially what that number tells you is what is the furniture going to cost and the stocking items so that the home is like ready to stay in. Stocking items being your sheets, your pizza cutters, your utensils, all of that stuff. What it does not include, which is good to keep in mind where things get a little bit custom, is your contract work, or, you know, if you're doing renovations to your kitchen, things like that, as well as amenities. So you have like some standard amenities that are going to be included, but if you're adding things like hot tubs, saunas, you have to kind of plan that those are going to be a separate kind of line items. Those are things that we can talk through on a discovery call when we're looking at the property. But that rule of thumb is pretty helpful across the board.
And then the like interior design fee itself is based on square footage of the home. So we can really quickly get like an estimate of what the design fee would be. And even just with short-term rental discounts and furniture discounts that we're able to provide for our clients, they're going to get a lot of that design feedback through those discounts. That is a really big benefit of working with a short-term rental designer too.
All right, let's move into murals. I know this is something that you guys do. So, what inspires your mural designs, and do you have a certain style?
I paint the murals around here, and I typically am doing like custom designed murals. So I'll create that design on my iPad exactly to scale and mock it up so the person knows exactly what they're getting before I get there. And I would say my style is very like joyful, happy, aesthetic. I love creating things that just breathe life into spaces. And so what that typically looks like is I'm very careful about my color palettes. I love a well curated color palette. I'm a little OCD about the colors, so that's fun. I enjoy it. I like something that's just super cohesive. I also love just looking at the location of the home, so that's a big factor. A couple things I'm always considering are, okay, where is this home located? How can we tie that into the mural design? Also, what does the interior design of the home look like? So that's where if Olivia designed the home, that's an easy collaboration there between the two of us. Or if someone else designed the home, I can take a look at kind of what that space looks like and design it accordingly.
So, on your murals, where are you normally putting them? And is there any maintenance involved? Like if they're in a bathroom, is there moisture concerns? Are you mostly putting them inside or outside?
Murals can be interior, exterior. I mean, the options really are endless. And I've done murals on stucco, brick, drywall, cinder block. I mean, really almost any material we can figure out the right paint to use. And I typically use high quality exterior paint on almost any project. And so that works really well for like humidity that you're going to encounter. And so, I mean, if we're in a weird situation, I can obviously do more research to make sure we have the right product for it. But typically that high quality exterior house paint is going to work for the majority of surfaces that we're seeing in Airbnbs specifically. And a lot of hosts right now are finding good spots for murals to be like game rooms. That's a big trendy spot right now. Just like a photo op in the home. Or if they have like more of a themed house, you can kind of do more splashy murals all throughout. But even for houses that aren't necessarily themed, we can do something more refined or sleek to fit the vibe of their house.
I do have a question though. This is a personal question. We have a cabin in Tennessee, and the cabin next to us has a huge mural on the ridge side of the house. What is like the scariest thing you've ever had to draw a mural on?
Well, I would say my most recent fearful mural encounter was I was painting a mural I was on a roof, and it was a second story mural for a town, I was really excited about it. I pitched the location to them. I was like, this would be a perfect spot right as you drive into the town. And when I got there, they had put scaffolding up for me, but the scaffolding was like just a 12-inch plank, like on like 3 stories high. And I was like, I don't know if
Did you do that on your own? I saw it on your website. Wow.
Yeah,
That's
I did.
terrifying.
I did it for like a month.
But this city was great. They extended those platforms for me and got it feeling all safe. But I was just trying to get over the height factor for a little while. It was all fine in the end, though. They took great care of me.
Well, it turned out great. It looked awesome. So
Thanks.
it's really cool.
So let's switch a little bit more to the branding side of things. So would you say branding is fit for every single STR owner, or maybe specifics? Let's speak a little bit more to the branding side.
I would emphasize the importance of branding in a few specific situations. First, if you are an STR owner with a very unique type of home that really seems interesting. So like, for instance, we worked with someone who had these like tiny floating cottages, what they were called. They were little houseboats that people could rent out. Like, that's so unique, so fun. There's a lot of personality we could infuse into that.
Yeah.
Maybe you have an Airstream or a tree house or just something a little out of the box. That makes a lot of sense to do branding for. And when I say branding, like talking logo, colors, fonts, the whole visual identity even goes into like brand patterns. There's a lot of different deliverables we provide for our clients. So that's the first one, just like unique stays. Second, when we really see a big impact and we'd really encourage branding is when hosts have like multiple properties that they're wanting to be perceived as under one umbrella. So maybe they have a property management company or a just set of properties that they want to be under one name. That's helpful for just getting repeat bookings. You know, clients are going to recognize that all of these homes are under one umbrella. If one's not available, oh, they trust that host, they can go to one of these other properties that are still hosted by the same person. So we really suggest it in that situation. I don't think every host needs branding, but if you're really wanting to be intentional and appear trustworthy, it's definitely something good to consider.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good definitely in these quote unquote saturated markets to set yourself apart. You might as well take advantage of that if possible. Do you have any metrics by chance speaking to increasing ADR rates because of branding? Do you have metrics on that? If not, that's fine. I'm just curious.
Share one example from like a home we did on Lake Wawasee. It included branding, but there were other factors. I would not attribute it to branding, actually. Okay. I would do more to the interior design. We did a mural. It was more the whole home refresh.
Right. But I think that's where it's very hard to get data when a lot of the time it's multiple things happening at once. And also a lot of the time branding is directly paired with direct bookings. And so are they seeing people come through repeat bookings? Are they getting more people off of the Airbnb platform onto their own booking website? That kind of plays together with branding.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think also photography too, like you could do all the right things, but if photography is bad, then it's not going to equate to booking. So I think it all really does go together.
Yes.
Those first impressions are, I mean, they only book based on what they see virtually, right? So
yeah,
we want to have a top-notch experience as soon as they walk in the door, but they're going to have to be impressed before they get to that point.
First, you have to get them in the door.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And design murals really play into that part. Yeah,
absolutely. I think we've been noticing a big change, at least from what I'm hearing in the STR community, about really moving more towards direct bookings because of us losing power as owners and leverage and marketing and all these other things. Have you seen, as clients come to you, an increase in STR owners wanting branding and direct booking because of this?
Yes. You know, it's kind of funny because we taught ourselves web design and essentially learned how to do it. We were like, oh, well, we should offer this as a service as well. Pretty soon we got pretty good at it. And it was like, oh, well, we learned how to do the integration for the direct booking websites with your property management system. And it was just funny because as we launched that service, it became something that we get asked about a lot and something that we realized was kind of a niche that we just stumbled upon almost accidentally. And maybe I'm saying too much, but it was kind of funny to us of oh, people need this. And now as we've kind of learned more of the market, it makes so much sense when you see these platforms taking larger and larger cuts. But what I always encourage people to think through it as is hey, Airbnb, they're charging a fee. Essentially, that's your marketing fee, right? They are bringing people to the platform and you're paying them to do that. But if you're going to market yourself, why pay that marketing fee for your own marketing? You should bring them to your own platform. And so that's really fun.
I mean, if you don't own your brand, Airbnb does. So
yeah.
Makes sense.
And as a guest, you're paying more to stay on an Airbnb or Vrbo property than you are direct. I think a lot of times guests don't understand that, but I know at least for my properties, you're probably going to save 15% at least to book direct. So it's a win-win for the host and the guest.
All right, so let's jump into the rapid fire segment of is it worth it? So ladies, I'm going to name a few things and I would love for you to just kind of say yes or no if it's worth it or not. First thing, themed wallpaper.
Yes.
If it's not too cheesy.
Yeah, it has to fit your property's story. Don't just slap something random on the wall.
Statement mural.
Yes. Heck yeah.
Neon sign.
Maybe.
I think you're more opinionated.
I think they get overused, but in the right property at the right location, like a game room or a karaoke lounge, they can be fire.
Okay.
Love it.
Custom logo.
Yes. In most circumstances, absolutely.
Branded guest book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Although I think a lot of the guest books just need to have the standard information inside, but you might as well have a nice branded cover. Would be
yes.
Yes. Make them remember you.
Yeah. Professional photos. This is easy.
100%.
Always.
Do not skip it.
Yep.
DIY design?
Depends who you are.
Who's
If
the
you-
DIYer?
Yeah.
I was expecting a huge no on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that some people love it and thrive on it and actually do a great job. Now, most of the time, you don't have time, and it's probably going to turn out better if you pull in a professional, and we love to do it. So that's really our heart, but we're not trying to tell someone whose joy in life is designing their own short-term rentals that they shouldn't do that.
I think that's the key. If you're someone that loves it and it's something you look forward to, then great. But if you're someone like me, it's not my strength and I dread it, it's probably best to delegate that to someone that's going to do a better job.
Yeah, it's just gonna suck your time away.
Yeah.
Might as well use it for something you want to use your time on.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so last question. If one of our, I don't know, handful of subscribers listening right now, what's the biggest mistake I'm probably making?
Probably trying to do it all yourself, which goes right along with what we were just talking about. I hire an accountant during tax season because I don't have time for that and I don't like doing it.
Right.
And so you can hire a designer, a muralist, a brand designer, a web designer, and save your time, put it where it counts, where you're doing what you love and what you're good at. And if you're doing it all on your own, it's going to take a lot longer.
And it's so fun to work with other people who you trust. Like we love working with other people and just like, it's fun. It's enjoyable. We hope that we make a fun experience for the people who come to work with us and like give them joy in their time of, elevating their property.
All right, well, if today taught us anything, it's that short-term rental is not a side hustle. It's a hospitality business.
And all businesses need branding.
So you can't just furnish a property. You really need to position it strategically.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. This was great information. If our listeners want to see how Abideaway can help their STR, where can they find you?
So we're at abideaway.com. We're on social media at Abideaway. And on our website, you'll see that you can book a clarity call with us if you have a property you're interested in learning more about. We'd love to meet with you quick on a call. You can schedule it there. But Abideaway on all the platforms.
Awesome. That's easy.
Let's hustle smarter
Together.